we just had our COVID tests done for in Italy for Greece. They're not that bad actually. I find that they're easier than what people make them seem like they're going to be. It's one of those things you have to get used to if you travel. We're heading over to the Colosseum next. We're going to take a taxi there. It's just easier than trying to navigate our way back throughout the city and the metro. So it'll be a quick 10-15 minute taxi ride, whereas it would be about a 45-minute walk and metro ride. So keep an eye out for that. we're at the Colosseum. Just waiting for our time to get in. It's what time? 2:15?
Well, 2:30. But
2:30.
we said to
Line up a little earlier.
yeah, half an hour before.
So yeah, it's anyone who's been here before probably knows it's pretty tourist trappy and a little predatory around here.
Yeah.
You'll have a million people asking you if they need guides. You'll have people asking if they need tickets.
Trying to give you gifts.
Right now, you'll only get tickets online. You can't buy tickets at the actual Colosseum. So people are trying to sell them to you on the streets. And there's a group of people who will offer you a gift, which is worth very little, and then expect money in return. This happens in every country. We had the kind of thing happen to us in Cuba and Havana. And just be careful of that kind of thing. Just ignore them. Don't feel like you're being racist or anything like that. You're just being a wise traveler. So just be smart about what you do. But yes, this is the lineup. A lot of people here know I've been waiting for there's also if you need water, people selling water for €1 each. It's our last day here in Italy and Rome. Now we're heading to the airport to head to Athens, Greece. We get to try another country. Hopefully our cell phones work there. We're not going to talk with our cell phones. But, we'll cross that right when we come to it. If you buy another SIM card, we'll buy another SIM card. You don't want to. So yeah, this is the Colosseum. I'll do a tour of inside once we get into it. And so then keep watching. We're in the Colosseum. way. The Colosseum, or Colosseo as it's known in Italy, is an oval amphitheater in the center of the city of Rome, just east of the Roman Forum. It is the largest ancient amphitheater ever built, and is still the largest standing amphitheater in the world today. Despite its age, construction began under the Emperor Vespasian between 69 and 79 AD. In 72, and was completed in 80 AD under the successor of the heir Titius. Further modifications were made during the reign of Domitian, and the three emperors that were patrons of the work are known as the Flavian dynasty. And the amphitheater was named the Flavian Amphitheater by later classicists and archaeologists for its association with their family name Flavius. The Colosseum was built of travertine limestone, tuff, which is volcanic rock, and brick-faced concrete. It held an estimated 50,000 to 80,000 spectators at various points in history, having an average audience of some 65,000. It was used for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles, including animal hunts, executions, reenactments of famous battles, and dramas based on Roman mythology, and briefly, mock sea battles. The building ceased to be used for entertainment in the medieval era. It was later reused for such purposes as housing, workshops, quarters for a religious order, a fortress, a quarry, and a Christian shrine. Although substantially ruined because of earthquakes and stone robbers for the spolia, the Colosseum is still an iconic symbol of imperial Rome, and was listed as one of the new 7 wonders of the world. It's one of Rome's most popular tourist attractions, and also has links to the Roman Catholic Church, as each Good Friday the Pope leads a torchlit Way of the Cross procession that starts in the area around the Colosseum. The Colosseum is depicted on the Italian version of the 5-cent euro coin. Originally, the building's Latin name was simply the Latin Amphitheatrum, lit. Amphitheater. Though the modern name, Flavian Amphitheater, is often used, there is no evidence it was used in the classical antiquity. The name refers to a patronage of the Flavian dynasty, during whose reigns the building was constructed, but the structure is better known as the Colosseum. In antiquity, Romans may have referred to the Colosseum by its unofficial name, Amphitheatrum Caesarum, with a Caesarum as an adjective pertaining to the title Caesar. But this name may have been strictly poetic, as it was not exclusive to any Colosseum. Vespasian and Titus, builders of the Colosseum, also constructed a Flavian amphitheater in Puteoli, or modern Puzzuoli. The name Colosseum is believed to be derived from the colossal statue of Nero on the model the Colossus of Rhodes. Giant bronze sculpture of Nero as a solar deity was moved to its position beside the amphitheater by the Emperor Hadrian. The word Colosseum is a neuter Latin noun formed from the adjective colossus, meaning gigantic or Colossian. By the year 1000, the Latin name Colosseum had been coined to refer to the amphitheater from the nearby Colossus Solis. The spelling was sometimes altered in medieval Latin. Colosseum, Colosseum, or Colosseum, Colseum, are attested from the 12th and 14th centuries respectively. In the 12th century, the structure was recorded as the Amphitheater Colossi, Amphitheater of the Colossus. In the High Middle Ages, the Flavian Amphitheater is attested as late 13th century, Old French Colossae, and Middle French as Colossi by the early 16th century, by which time the word could be applied to any amphitheater. From the Middle French, Colossi derived the Middle English Colossi, the middle of the 15th century, and employed by John Capgrave in the Solace of the Pilgrims, in which he remarked, Middle English Colossi is a mirrorless place, being Most part of Stant Pisday, an English translation by John Boussier, second Baron of Berners, of Antonio de Guevara's biography of Marcus Aurelius from 161 to 180, in about 1533 referred to Middle English. The emperor began with the Senate at Colossae. Similarly, the Italian Colosseo or Colosseo are attested to be as referring first to the amphitheater in Rome and then to the amphitheater by 1460, equivalent existence of Catalan Colossi by 1495 had appeared in Spanish Coliseo, and by 1548 the Portuguese Colosseum. The earliest citation for the name Colosseum in early modern English is in the 1600s translation by Philemon Holland of the Ubers Romae Topography, or Bartolomeo Martellini, which was used in preparation of the translation of Livy's Augustan era, Ab Urb Condita Libri. The text states that the amphitheater was commonly called Colosseum of Nero's Colosseo, which was set up in the porch of the Nero's house. Similarly, John Evelyn, translating the Middle French name Le Colossi, used by the agricultural theorist Ronald Frevert de Chambray, wrote, and 'tis indeed a kind of miracle to see the Colosseum. Innumerable other structures which seem to have been built for eternity should be present, so ruinous and dilapidated. After Nero's suicide and the civil wars of the Year of the Four Emperors, Colossus of Nero was remodeled by the condemned emperor's successors in the likeness of Helios, the soul, or Apollo, the sun god. By adding appropriate solar crown, it was commonly referred to as the Colossus Solis. Nero's head was also replaced several times with the heads of succeeding empires. Despite its pagan links, the statue remained standing well into the medieval era, credited with magical powers. The Emperor Constantine the Great remodeled the statue's face as his own. In the 8th century, an epigram attributed to the Venerable Bede celebrated the symbolic significance of statue in a prophecy that was variously quoted. Quod Dei stat Colossae, sat el Roma, quando cate Colossus, cadet et Roma, quando cate Roma, cadet et mundus. As long as the Colossus stands, so shall Rome. When the Colossus falls, Rome shall fall. When the Rome falls, so falls the world. This is often mistranslated to refer to the Colosseum rather than the Colossus, as in, for instance, Byron's poem, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. However, at the time the Suedo Bedo wrote, the masculine noun Colossae was applied to the statue rather than the amphitheater. The Colossus did eventually fall, possibly during being pulled down to reuse its bronze. The statue itself was largely forgotten, as only base survives, between the Colosseum and the nearby Temple of Venus in Roma. History: construction, inauguration, and Roman renovations. The site chosen was a flat area on the floor of a low valley between Callain, Esquiline, and Palatine Hills, through which a cannibalized stream ran, as well as an artificial lake or marsh. By the 2nd century BC, the area was densely inhabited. It was devastated by the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, following which Nero seized much of the area to add to his personal domain. He built the grandiose Domus Aurea in the site, in front of which he created an artificial lake surrounded by pavilions, gardens, and porticos. The existing Aqua Claudia aqueduct was densely extended to supply water to the area. The gigantic bronze Colossus of Nero was set up nearby at the entrance of the Domus Aurea. Although the Colossus was preserved, much of the Domus Aurea was torn down. The lake was filled in with land and reused as the location for the new Flavian amphitheater. Gladiatorial schools and other support buildings were reconstructed nearby within the former grounds of the Domus Aurea. Vespasian's decision to build the Colosseum on the site of Nero's lake can be seen as a populist gesture of returning to the people's area of which Nero had appropriated for his own use. In contrast to many other amphitheaters, which were on the outskirts of the city, the Colosseum was constructed in the city center, in effect placing it both symbolically and precisely at the heart of Rome. Construction was founded by the opulent spoils taken by the Jewish temple after the First Jewish-Roman War in 770 AD led to the siege of Jerusalem. According to a reconstructed inscription found on the site, the Emperor Vespasian ordered the new amphitheater to be erected from the general's share of the booty. It is often assumed that the Jewish prisoners of war were brought back to Rome and contributed to the massive workforce needed to construction of the amphitheater. There is no ancient evidence for that. It would nonetheless be commiserated that Roman practice to add humiliation to the defeated population. Along with the free source of unskilled labor, teams of professional Roman builders, engineers, artists, painters, decorators undertook most of the specialized tasks necessary for building the Colosseum. The Colosseum was constructed with several different materials: wood, limestone, tuff, tiles, cement, and mortar. Construction of the Colosseum began under the rule of Vespasian in around 70 to 72 AD, 73 to 75 AD, according to some sources. The Colosseum had been completed up to its third story by the time of Vespasian's death in 79. Top level was finished by his son, Titus, in 80, and the inaugural games were held in 80 or 81. Dio Cassius recounts that over 9,000 wild animals were killed during the inaugural games of the amphitheater. Commemorative coinage were issued celebrating the inauguration. The building was remodeled further under Vespasian's younger son, the newly designated Emperor Domitian, who constructed the Hypogeum as a series of tunnels used to house animals and slaves. He also added a gallery to the top of the Colosseum to increase its seating capacity. In 217, the Colosseum was badly damaged by a major fire caused by lightning, according to Dio Cassius, which destroyed the wooden upper levels of the amphitheater's interior. It was not fully repaired until 240 and underwent further repairs in 250 and 252, and again in 320. Honorius banned the practice of gladiatorial fights in 399 and again in 404. Gladiator fights were last mentioned around 435. An inscription records the restoration of various parts of the Colosseum under Theodos II and Valentinian II, reigning from 425 to 455, possibly to repair damage caused by a major earthquake in 443. Much work followed in 484 and 508. The arena continued to be used for contests well into the 6th century. Animal hunts continued until at least 523, when ancient Maximus and Ancius Maximus celebrated the consulship with some Venetones criticized by King Theodoric the Great for high cost. The Colosseum underwent several radical changes of use. By the late 6th century, a small chapel had been built on the structure of the amphitheater, though it apparently did not confer any particular religious significance on the building as a whole. The arena was converted into a cemetery. The numerous vaulted spaces in the arcades under the seating were converted into housing and workshops, and recorded as still being rented out as the late 12th century. Around 1200, the Frangipani family took over the Colosseum and fortified it, apparently using it as a castle. Severe damage was inflicted on the Colosseum of the Great Earthquake of 1349, causing the outer south side, lying on the less stable alluvial terrain, to collapse. Much of the tumbled stone was reused to build palaces, churches, hospitals, and other buildings elsewhere in Rome. A religious order moved into the northern third of the Colosseum in the mid-14th century, and continued to inhabit it until as late as the early 19th century. The interior of the amphitheater was extensively stripped of stone, which was reused elsewhere, or in the case of the marble facade, was burned to make quicklime. The iron clamps which held the stonework together were pried or hacked out of the walls, leaving numerous pockmarks where they're still scarred to the building today. During the 16th and 17th century, church officials sought a protective role of the Colosseum. Pope Sixtus V, from 1585 to 1590, planned to turn the building into a wool factory to provide employment for Rome's prostitutes, though this proposal fell through with a premature death. In 1671, Cardinal Altieri authorized it for use of bullfights. Public outcry caused this idea to be hastily abandoned. In 1749, Pope Benedict XIV endorsed the view of the Colosseum was a sacred site where Christians had been martyred. He forbade the use of the Colosseum as a quarry and consecrated the building as a Passion of the Christ, and installed Stations of the Cross, declaring it sanctified by the blood of the Christian martyrs who perished there. However, there is no historical evidence to support Benedict's claim, nor is there any evidence that anyone before the 16th century suggested this might be the case. The Catholic Encyclopedia concludes that there are no historical grounds for supposition other than the reasonably plausible conjecture that some of the many martyrs may have been. Later popes initiated various stabilization and restoration projects, removing the extensive vegetation which had overgrown the structure and threatened to damage it further. The facade was reinforced with triangular brick wedges in 1807 and 1827, and the interior was repaired in 1831, 1846, and in the 1930s. The arena substructure was partly excavated in 1810 to 1814 and 1874, fully exposed under Benito Mussolini in the 1930s. The Colosseum is today one of Rome's most popular tourist attractions, receiving millions of visitors annually. The effects of the pollution of the general deterioration over time prompted a major restoration program carried out between 1993 and 2000, cost of some 40 billion Italian lire, which is about 19.3 million American or 20.6 euros at 2000 prices. In recent years, the Colosseum had become a symbol of the international campaign against the capital punishment, which was abolished in Italy in 1948. Several anti-death penalty demonstrations took place in front of the Colosseum in 2000. Since the time a gesture against the death penalty, local authorities of Rome changed the color of the Colosseum's nighttime illumination from white to gold whenever a person condemned to the death penalty anywhere in the world gets the sentence or commuted or is released. Or if a jurisdiction abolished the death penalty. Most recently, the Colosseum was illuminated in gold in November 2021 following the abolishment of the capital punishment in the American state of Connecticut in April 2012. Because of the ruined state of the interior, it's impractical to use the Colosseum to host large events. Only a few hundred spectators can be accommodated in temporary seating. However, much larger concerts have been held just outside, using the Colosseum as a backdrop. Performers who have played the Colosseum in recent years include Ray Charles in 2002, Paul McCartney in May of 2003, Elton John in September 2005, and Billy Joel in July 2006. The exterior. Unlike Roman theaters, that were built in the hillsides, the Colosseum is an entirely freestanding structure. It derives its basic exterior and interior architecture from that of the two theaters back to back. It is elliptical in plan and has 189 meters or 615 feet or 640 Roman feet long and 156 meters, 510 feet American or 528 Roman feet wide, with a base of 24,000 square meters or 6 acres. The height of the outer wall is 48 meters. The perimeter originally measured 545 meters. The central arena is an oval of 87 meters long and 55 meters wide, surrounded by a wall of 5 meters and high, above which rows tiers of seating. The outer wall is estimated to have required over 100,000 cubic meters, of travertine stone which were set without mortar. They were held together by 300 tons of iron clamps. However, it suffered extensive damage over the centuries, large segments having collapsed following earthquakes. The north sides of the perimeter wall is still standing. The distinctive triangular block wedges on each wedge on each of the modern additions have been constructed in the early 19th century to shore up the wall. The remainder of the present-day exterior of the Colosseum is, in fact, original interior wall. The surviving part of the outer wall's monumental facade comprises the superposed stories surmounted by a podium on which tall attic, both of which pierced by windows, interspersed at regular intervals. The arcades are framed by half-column or Doric Iconic Corinthian orders, with the attic is decorated with Corinthian pilasters. Each of the arches in the second and third floor arcades frames statues, probably honoring divinities and other cultures from classical mythology. 240 masked corbels were positioned around the top of the attic. They originally supported a retractable awning known as the velarium and kept the sun off and the rain off spectators. This consisted of a canvas-covered, net-like structure made of ropes with a hole in the center. It covered two-thirds of the arena and sloped down towards the center of and catch the wind and provide a breeze for the audience. Sailors, specifically enlisted for the Roman naval headquarters of Misenum and housed in the nearby Castra Mizentine, were used to work in the velarium. The Colosseum's huge crowd capacity made it essential that the venue could be filled or evacuated quickly. Its architects adopted solutions very similar to those used in modern stadiums to deal with the same problem. The amphitheater was ringed by 80 entrances at the ground level, 76 of which were used by ordinary spectators. Each entrance and exit was numbered, and as was each staircase. The northern main entrance was reserved for Roman emperor and his aides, whilst the other three axial entrances were most likely used by the elite. All four axial entrances were richly decorated with painted stucco reliefs, and which fragments survived. Many of the original outer entrances have disappeared with the collapse of the perimeter wall, but entrances 23 to 54 survive. Spectators were given tickets in the form of a numbered pottery shard, which directed them to appropriate sections and row. They accessed their seats via vomitoria, passageways that opened into the tiers of the seats from below or behind. These quickly dispersed people in their seats, and upon conclusion of the event or an emergency evacuation, permit their exit within only a few minutes. The name Vitimoria derived from the Latin word for a rapid discharge, from which English derives the word vomit. That's just a bit of history about the Roman Colosseum. It was a wonderful sight to see, and it was amazing to actually take it in and be at such a famous building and walking in and touching the outside of it and the inside of it and looking down at history, basically, that's been around for over 2,000 years. Join us next week for a summary of our trip in Rome, and then the week after we'll be going to Greece. So until next time, keep eating to your own beat, take the road less traveled, and have a great day.